Hello, I'm Joel Blackford with Beth Hesed Sabbath Fellowship. Thank you for joining us. We do the thought behind the thought of Revelation, what your philosophy is going forward on eschatology, the end of days, what you need to know, your reality, our existence. We solve a little piece of Revelation each week. We're working on chapter 6 and 16, and we're discussing King Charles as he campaigns for the Antichrist. Yes, we'll give you some chapter 13 too, which is more specific about the Antichrist, but it's going to be interesting. So the picture came out, the portrait of King Charles, and we'll describe it more in detail. I want to show you other kings and what they look like, and how people, the general people, are saying it looks satanic. And it does. It truly does. You know, they're dignified and everything like that. The closest representation that I can find is the picture on the far right, which is Baphomet. Okay? I mean, this is weird. I want you to notice his forehead and his hand, the right hand, as we get to those verses. And then we'll discuss some of these chapters. This is just bizarre. So this is a midweek get-together. We are going to talk about the Bible. We'll talk about prophecy. We'll talk about the news, which is King Charles' portrait. We do the philosophy of the end of days. Okay, so let's once again, the forehead. There it is, prominent. The right hand. Let's read the verses and see if you agree with me, because all the other things are just distractions. Okay, so forehead and hand. It deceives the people living on the earth by the miracles it is allowed to perform in the presence of the beast, and it tells them to make an image honoring the beast that was struck by the sword, became alive again. It was allowed to put breath into the image of the beast so that the image of the beast could speak, and it was allowed to cause anyone who would not worship the image of the beast to be put to death. It also forces everyone, great and small, rich and poor, that's all of us people, okay, free and slave, to receive the mark on his right hand and on his forehead, preventing anyone from buying or selling unless he has the mark. That is the name of the beast, or the name of the beast, or the number of its name. That's Revelation 13:14 through 17. We're also going to cover Revelation chapter 6, the fifth seal, and we're going to cover Revelation 16 with the blood. So what I'm getting at is they are telegraphing through this portrait, this blood red, weird photograph, or I mean portrait, that there's going to be persecution coming, there's going to be martyrdom, and there's going to be blood, and this is all biblical, people, completely biblical. So he started out as kind of a buffoon, King Charles, Prince Charles of Wales, I believe it was. He married Diana, but he was never faithful. She seemed to have a boyfriend or two, and he finally married Camilla after Diana died, and you wonder how she died. He is the Lord of the butterflies, but is he the Lord of the flies? I don't know, but we'll examine this man. A little bit about his life. He is the climate change king. He has been asking for people to have a terracotta carta, which would be a contract to protect the earth. And so he is a big environmentalist, shown there with John Kerry. And so this is his crowning achievement. Now he's an older man, he's 75 years of age, but this is what he's pushing hard for. And in that particular picture, look for the endangered monarch butterfly. That is his coat of arms, so to speak. So anyway, he is the defender of the faith. But what faith is that? His best friend over the years until he died was Jimmy Savile. And Jimmy had a horrible track record with children, if you know what I mean. He was an abuser, sexually abusing, and Charles was close friends with him. They were buddies. So whose faith is it? Is it Baphomet, or is it the God of the Bible? So he was the head of the Commonwealth and defender of the faith. I argue, not our faith, not the right faith. So this is a comment from, of all sources, the Daily Beast. And they say, burning in hell, or very fine, King Charles' first official portrait unveiled, and truly nightmarish. Hideous, looks like he's burning in hell. Okay, there you go. So there's a picture again of it. And Camilla told the artist Jonathan Yu, yes, you've got him. And Charles suggested a butterfly landing on his shoulder. Oh boy, that's exciting too. So anyway, emerging from a striking, ghoulish-looking red miasma and a butterfly about to land on his shoulder. And then, like the poster from a truly nightmarish horror movie, or so bad it's even deemed absolutely fecking hideous, looks like he is burning in hell. It's that reddish blood color everywhere. and he's citing, that this is from the British monarchy and blah blah blah. No, it's a blood sacrifice, and we'll get to those verses in a while. Don't worry, stick with me. This will be a long video, but this is a midweek video. So this is his terra carta. So that is an agreement. That's a contract. That is a uh, it's interesting how this is contract law. This is where it came from, Britain. Whatever we do in America is based off the Magna Carta. So terra would be with the earth, and so it's harmony of nature and things like that. And yes, as for the butterfly, Yao explains it's a history of art. The butterfly symbolizes metamorphosis and rebirth, and that's appropriate for a portrait of a recently ascended monarch. It also signifies a king who has championed these terra carta policies. So first official portrait is unveiled. It's 8 feet tall, features a sword. I didn't notice that. The butterfly and a lot of red. And it's for climate change. So there you go. That's what he's talking about. And then this butterfly too. So what I want you to see, and we'll go through a few of these slides, we'll see what you think, is that a beast? If you mirror the images, are you looking at a beast? Or was that created that way? I mean, the problem is there's lots of things that you can see and unsee. I'll give you a couple of slides later on, but the image of the beast seems to be there, okay? Now, what I'm arguing then is King Charles III exposes his forehead and right hand, which is Revelation 13:16, in the field of blood, situated next to a mirror image of half of the beast. King Charles would love to be the beast, but he's part of the second tier. He's never going to achieve it. He'll die in 2 years. He has cancer. He has. I'll give you that in the next slide. The monarch butterfly represents transformation. There will be a transformation and a metamorphosis into the end times. Someone will metamorphosize into the beast at the appropriate time. And that person will die and resurrect. So it is worship of the beast as he resurrects and then becomes the true beast at that point in time. That is the Lamb of gods, so to speak, not of our God, of their gods. Okay, so once again, the butterfly, and you see the symbology of how this worked for William of Orange, and so the butterfly's been around the monarchy for many, many years. The butterfly next to Charles' shoulder is thought to have been named after another British ruler. Fine. Charles' passion for the environment. Fine. He's signifying, I think, in the red, in part, the global warming. So this is a picture just from NOAA, how they use red to signify the incredibly warm areas, and blue the cold areas. And so, on average temperatures and things like that for April. So they're showing the global warming. Okay, and so this is land and ocean, and so that is a metamorphosis in that global warming is increasing. Okay, but there are other reasons for that too. So red also has historic associations with power, and King Charles does have power. Okay, so is Charles' portrait a warning about the future of the monarchy? How artists behind King's fiery painting used the red of the Welsh Guards and an endangered butterfly to tell multiple stories. There are multiple stories going on, no doubt about that. In the painting, the king can be seen standing in his Welsh Guards uniform, which happens to be red. He's got the sword in his hand, the butterfly on his shoulder, and the whole canvas is awash in deep red color. Professor Johnson added, red is an eye-catching color that can't easily be ignored. It is the color we associate in everyday life with warning or prohibition. Think of it as a stop sign. But red has its historic associations with power, long tradition of the royal portraiture. Napoleon depicted himself in red, sumptuous red robes. Interesting. I'm not a fan of Napoleon. Henry VIII was famously portrayed wearing a crimson gown. Queen Victoria likewise is often shown official portraits wearing red velvet. And in the Bible, Isaiah 1:18, come let us reason together. Sins are crimson, they can become white. Okay, I get the red for the sin side. I don't get the white side right now. Okay, continuing on. This is from Chad Edwards Brown. The monarch programming is a method of mind control used by numerous organizations for covert purposes. It's a continuation of MK Ultra, a project by the CIA. It's a mind control program developed by them and tested on the military and civilians. The methods are astonishingly sadistic. They traumatize the victim, The results are horrifying. The creation of, basically, they're creating mind-controlled slaves who can trigger at any time to perform any action required by the handler. While the mass media ignores this issue, over 2 million Americans have gone through the horrors of this program. I didn't know that. The article looks into the monarch programming and some of its methods and symbolism. Interesting. Now, do you see a beast, a monster in the background? Does it look like that picture above the picture? So you have the picture of Charles that is mirrored, and then above it, do you see what I think I'm seeing? We'll continue on and look more, okay? But it is a metamorphosis to someone becoming the Antichrist and the beast at some point in time. Okay. He has pancreatic cancer. He's in a battle for his life. We assume he has 2 years to live. This is an inside secret among royal staffers. The cancer is worse than they're making it out to be, and it's an open secret. So otherwise, In Touch would have been sued, okay? Because a couple of people have already said, you can't say that. In fact, I had an internist, a brilliant doctor from Arkansas, argue with me over this, and I said, a few things that I probably shouldn't have said. And I'm no internist. I mean, I have studied science my whole life, and I did quite well in biology, physiology, things like that. But the point is that I don't know how pancreatic cancer can be treated, and I don't know how you would know that he has it other than In Touch stated it and wasn't sued. And this has been going on for at least a month or so, where they know that this is the case. The other thing is, if you look at his hands in pictures, you'll see edema and you'll see fluid retention. So I'm noticing that. So anyway, less than 2 months after Buckingham Palace confirmed King Charles III was diagnosed with some form of cancer, but we're arguing pancreatic cancer because that's what In Touch is saying. And once again, In Touch Weekly was not sued. But he's given 2 years to live after the diagnosis. So that's it. He's not going to last very long, and he won't be healthy. He's going to have a good time here at first, and then he's just going to hit rock bottom and die. So he's not the Antichrist. His son is not the Antichrist. Donald Trump is not the Antichrist. This is somebody's idea of having fun where the portrait is unveiled and Trump pops out and starts dancing. It's just incredibly funny. None of the above are the Antichrist. So just keep that in mind. So this is from Jimmy Corsetti. He was a friend of Ben Davidson. Great guy, good researcher. He's one of the catastrophists that I happen to follow. It looks like Baphomet. It just does, okay? Mirror one of the images, piece them together, look closely, then flip it upside down, and you can see it again there too. So that's what I think you're seeing. He's flipping it upside down. We'll give you some more pictures, but it's the mirrored image. It's the whole thing going on. I think this is interesting, people. It looks satanic, yes. Now, this is a few weeks ago. You had this weird situation where a white horse got loose in Britain and got bloodied and ran around the streets with blood. It looks like the portrait, people, okay? There's no butterfly there. So this is Corsetti again. 3 weeks ago, and this was today that he pointed this out. So this is 3 weeks ago. The King's Regiment horses ran bloody through the streets of London the day King Charles' new painting has the appearance that some have described as painted in blood. Coincidence or symbolic? I think it's Baphomet again, okay? And the butterfly is just weird. Who does a butterfly in blood red orange? Okay, we're not going to read the stuff on the left. I'll read it on the next slide. But anyway, I'll read the top. Just recall Macron's familiarity with King Charles. He didn't stop touching him during his entire visit with Camilla. So Macron is the boss of someone whose portrait here is and doesn't take a Rorschach test there. The painter knows perfectly well what he's doing. Queen Elizabeth would have never allowed this. No one needs to pretend not to see these signs, okay? This is all planned. This is planned. This is Project Monarch. This is just weird stuff. Okay, what do you see there? This is upside down. Do you see anything at all? Okay, so this is what the French guy, Bertrand Scholler, says, and that was the guy that I clipped in the last page, the last slide. And what does the monarch butterfly do? Which seems to confirm that the king is under control. Search the internet for MK Ultra Project Monarch, a CIA program. Then remember King Charles' visit to the crowned heads just before the Crocus attack in Moscow, an event which failed and cost the perpetrators dearly. So this French guy, very interesting point. So do you see anything weird going on there? I don't know. I don't know. Okay, do you see anything more weird here? Do you see Baphomet in there? This is an interesting X-ray type picture on this. See anything at all? I see Baphomet. Do you see anything there? This is different. I don't know if this is actually true or some artist rendered this, but that is just bizarre. That's like a weird false Baphomet angel in the background there. Okay, and once again, King Charles, rather, is going to live maximum 2 years. He'll probably be dead in a year and a half. Okay? William is not the Antichrist either. They don't fit the criteria, but they're interesting to watch because they'll be part of the second tier and they'll do things. So this King Charles is really involved with tracking the diseases. And so here's a picture in that blood red of the diseases per country and things like that, and the percentages and the cases and things like that. But notice how they choose this red color, this blood red color. You see Dracula down on the left-hand side there, and what color would he choose? Blood red. Baphomet on the right-hand side. Different pictures of Baphomet in that red color. They know what they're doing, people. It's once again, blood, the symbology of that, the particular virus, and then blood, the drop down below, then the Red Queen from Alice in Wonderland, and then Biden giving a speech in the red background, and then Baphomet again. Symbolism has meaning if you search. If you ignore it, I guess it has no meaning. But it seems to have meaning. Lady Gaga and Marina Abramovich, that's a fake model, but it looks like blood, you know? So I want to give you what's coming up. So basically, I'm saying it's sacrificial. It's a blood sacrifice message. It's going to be persecution, martyrdom, blood, sacrifices, and when the Lamb broke the fifth seal, I saw underneath the altar the souls of those who had been put to death for proclaiming the word of God, that is, for bearing witness. They cried out in a loud voice, saying, Sovereign ruler, HaKadosh, the Holy One, true one, how long will it be before you judge the people on the earth and avenge our blood? Blood. Okay? Each one of them was given a white robe, and they were told to wait a little longer until the full number of their fellow servants should be reached of their brothers who would be killed just as they had been. Revelation 6, 9 through 11. That's the first phase that we'll see, that we'll enter into. Okay? And the blood sacrifice continues. Dr. Peter McCullough has been talking about it lately. And so it's a blood message. It's a blood sacrifice message. I can't quote what he talks about there in terms of DARPA and other things like that, but it looks like 2012 was when they were pursuing a bioweapon. And so we'll see. I don't want to get flagged, so I won't say much. Okay? It's Peter McCullough. Wonderful guy. Great guy. So moving on, Revelation 6, we talked about the fifth seal. Now we'll move on to Revelation 16. The second one poured out his bowl into the sea, and it became like the blood of a dead person, and every living thing on the sea died. And the third one poured out his bowl on the rivers and the springs and the water, and they turned to blood. Revelation 16, 3 through 4. So basically, at some point in time, after the midpoint, after the Antichrist, it becomes the lamb of their gods and is sacrificed, blood sacrifice, and then resurrects, then these things occur. Those are the bowls. So basically, the seals lead up into the Great Tribulation. The first half of the Great Tribulation, the first 3.5 years, are going to be the trumpets, and then the last half should be the bowls, and they should be centered on Moedim, not Jewish, how about God's festivals from Leviticus 23. So basically, that's how things are working in terms of its blood. It's a blood message. It's a sacrificial message. This is Bill Murray saying, well, it's Soros-funded pre-election riot season again, and it just keeps on happening and happening. And so this picture on the other side is based on 2012. It's a forecast of blood running in the streets, running in the rivers, running everywhere, blood, blood, blood. And guess who's running all of this? So when you see the blood in King Charles' portrait, you should think of the blood that they expect to have running, and that's what they want. And this is from The Economist in 2012, and it's just interesting to see all the blood activities. So is he the king? Is he a clown? Is he the Antichrist? I'm arguing no, he's not the Antichrist, that he's just basically a guy that's filling in. He's second tier. He's part of the problem, but he's not the problem. There will be another that will follow. It won't be a son. It'll be a true Antichrist, and he'll have to match certain types of criteria. So right now, he's past the clown phase. That's what he was for many, many years. He's moved on to the king phase, but he'll be dead within 2 years. And we mock our garish leaders, George Bush with the airplane and the buildings that fell down, the blocks there. You've got Bill Clinton in the blue dress, Obama holding Clinton, and a garish picture there too. And then this is interesting because this is Naomi Wolf. Somebody took a picture of her and superimposed it, mirrored it. And then the hair, it gives you that weird look. So maybe this is just, one of those instances where you're not seeing anything. I think we're seeing something, okay? I think we're seeing something. All the world is a stage, and all the men and women merely players. They have their exits and their entrances. One man in his time, place, many parts. His acts being 7 ages. And so many antichrists will enter, only one will remain. It'll be somebody else. And we don't know who it is. I mean, lots of people pick out lots of people. So let's read the verses. Children, this is the last hour. You have heard that the anti-Messiah is coming. In fact, many anti-Messiahs have arisen now, which is how we know that this is the last hour. They went out from us, but they weren't part of us. They had been, if they had been part of us, they would have remained with us. 1 John 2:18 through 19. So we'll have many antichrists. It isn't Trump. It isn't Obama. He might be Gog. Who is the Antichrist? There are 10 likely candidates. We don't know who they are. The Antichrist will not be a beast-looking person. He will be described as the beast, as a Therion. But, yeah, it's a Therion. Thanatos is death. He's a Therion. We don't know who this particular person will be, but we do know that he will arrive at some point in time. I'm picking about the midpoint of the Great Tribulation, the final 7 years, and then you will have an idea of who he is. Okay, so now Dr. Taylor Marshall is a brilliant man. He's a Catholic theologian, and it's good for the Catholic Church to always point the finger at somebody else, because many years ago, in 15, probably 20, Martin Luther read his Bible and said, I feel much freer now that I am certain the Pope is the Antichrist. So since that time, the Catholic Church has tried very, very hard to point the finger at anybody else but themselves. Now, he's wondering if King Charles III is the global Antichrist. And that's very intriguing that he's asking that as a Catholic, because Catholics don't generally believe in the Antichrist and are generally amillennial, meaning we are in the millennium right now, those final 1,000 years. We're not. Lutherans believe that too. They're amillennialists too. In fact, most of the Greek Orthodox and the Eastern Orthodox are amillennial too. They don't read Revelation. So anyway, and did Vigano, who was a great man, and I love certain Catholics. I really do. Most of the people in the pew I just love dearly. I'm not a Pope Francis fan, but did Vigano say Pope Francis is the Antichrist? I don't know. Now, this is Tim Cohen. We had him on our show, Prophecy Roundtable, a few months ago, and he wondered, is King Charles III, the Antichrist over multiple Antichrists? And there are many to choose from. And so Tim's book is there, The Antichrist and a Cup of Tea. Interesting book. I disagreed with him. Just like when King Charles dies and William becomes king, I'll disagree there too. I think there's another one coming. And this is Ray Comfort asking, did the Antichrist just be crowned king when King Charles became king? So it's fanciful, it's interesting, and so some people argue that Pope Francis is the Antichrist. I would argue that Tom Horn, who is dead, and Chris Putnam, who is a friend of mine and is also dead, both argued in Petrus Romanus that the final pope is Pope Francis, and he's actually the false prophet. So is he? We'll find out. I mean, he's very old now, very tired, and so it would take a miracle to keep him going another X amount of years. But it is intriguing. I mean, we study this, and it's very, very interesting, and so I would argue that many Catholics are wonderful people, but Pope Francis seems to serve Baphomet. I would argue that. Okay, so over the years we've had the Left Behind series, and we've had Ghostbusters 2 looking at and saying Vigo the Carpathian, which is a takeoff on Nikolai Carpathia, the Left Behind Antichrist from many 50 years ago. Okay, poor Canadian actor handled that part. Poor guy, you're typecast. I'm not going to hire you as an actor because you're the Antichrist. And so we've got Vigo on the left hand side, we've got Nikolai in the middle, and it's all fiction people. And now poor Neil McDonough, he's the Antichrist today. They aged him out. And so Left Behind, the Rise of the Antichrist, it's all really bad fiction. And Kevin Sorbo, you're looking for a bit, you know, none of the above. It's fiction. Okay, but the metamorphosis is rather interesting, and so it's like the butterfly. It's very interesting to see this stuff going on. Everybody's getting it. Everybody's seeing it. So I want to point out that the guy that wrote The Left Behind was Tim LaHaye. Wonderful guy, loving, caring guy. I'm not a fan of Jerry B. Jenkins. He is a compulsive gambler. He's been writing horrible fiction for years. He's a once saved, always saved guy, and he's writing fiction. It's horrible fiction. If you're buying it, you're being suckered into spending more money so he can gamble more. Okay? And so the uninitiated have real questions and valid concerns over how the things of God appear to them. And so if you're going to, the Christian market has less competition and lower standards. And so he's made millions off this, and he's gambled most of it away. So horrible. And Moody's involved with this too. Moody has been involved with the Elephant's Room and what's the name? James McDonald. They were both gambling buddies, and they gambled away so much money, and they destroyed James McDonald Church in Chicago, and just horrible. And then, so Jerry's son, this would be Dallas Jenkins, created The Chosen. So be careful. It's all just fiction. I'm trying to quote the Bible here. I am spinning some other stories, but I'm stating that The Chosen is a Mormon storyline, and it's a universal church, the Catholic Church storyline, being funded by both of them. And so be very careful with these things as we move forward. Try to read your Bible and find sources that quote the Bible, like I do. And then the other thing is, here's another person. This is Mark Hitchcock, a wonderful guy. It's just that he believes in the doctrine of imminence, and the rapture is happening at some point in time, and that it's a signless coming. There are no observable warning signs. Well, guess what? In the last week or so here, we've had tons of CMEs. We've had solar flares. We've had aurora borealis. Those are signs of the sixth seal. And just like King Charles, his portrait in red is a sign of Revelation chapter 6, Revelation chapter 16, and some other sections that I've shown you today. So just keep that all in mind. Ben Davidson, my hero, he's a faithful guy. He's wearing a cross there. Interesting. A bigger than biblical earth disaster is coming. And he's saying right now what you're experiencing is puny space weather driving huge storms. So the signs are coming, and they're going to be even more. So watch for the signs going forward. We just had Passover in April. We're going through May right now. We're coming into June. We'll have the Ascension on what I believe should be the 6th day of June, and then Shavuot on the 16th day. And so basically, these are interesting days to watch. What's occurring right now with all the signs going on seem to be leading up to Ascension Day and Shavuot, which is the Feast of Weeks, Shavua in the Hebrew, and it would be, in the Greek, it would be Pentecost, which would be 50. And so count the Omer, count the pagan days, because the pagans are counting. Trust me, they are. So to end up with something nice here, great is thy faithfulness. So I'm arguing if there is evil, then there is good. If there is good, then there is God. King Frederick the Great of Prussia once asked a physician to give him proof of the existence of God. His physician replied, "Your Majesty, the continued existence of the Jews." It's true. So, but in mind, I keep returning to something during the time that they're leaving for Babylon as slaves. This is from Lamentations, yes, something that gives me hope. That the grace of Adonai is not exhausted, that his compassion is not ended. On the contrary, they are new every morning. Great is thy faithfulness. Adonai is all I have. I say, therefore, I will put my hope in him. Lamentations 3:21 through 24, which is Jeremiah writing this. And it's just amazing because we're going into the birth pangs deeper. We're going into the tribulation at some point in time. We'll hit the great tribulation later than that. We're probably in seal 4 right now. they're popping off. There is more proof that we're getting closer to Seal 5. And which Antichrist? There are many. There are many. There will be one specifically. You need to have clean garments. You can't be naked. There's a wedding coming up. It'll be a fall festival. Get your garments clean. Be blessed. Thank you very much for your time, and we'll talk to you then in a few days. God bless.